Alright, welcome back. Today I'm going to teach you how to sketch quadratic graphs. Now, there are three things you need when you want to sketch a quadratic graph. Firstly, you need the shape of the curve. Secondly, you need the turning point, meaning the maximum or minimum point. And lastly, you need the x and y intercepts. Now, what do I mean by the shape of curve? You must understand that in a quadratic curve, it is either a smiley or a sad face. Okay? Actually, these are just nicknames. A smiley curve is actually called a minimum curve, and a sad face is actually called a maximum curve. Now, why is this a minimum curve? Because it has a minimum point, a lowest point of the curve. Some students may ask, isn't this the maximum point? No, this goes on forever. Okay, this is a maximum curve because it has a maximum point here. It's the highest point of the curve, and this goes on forever. So there is no minimum point here. Now, how do I know whether it's a minimum curve or a maximum curve? Simple. You look at the coefficient of x squared. Okay, if it is positive, I smile. If it is negative, I'm sad. So it's very easy to remember. If the coefficient of x squared is positive, I smile. If the coefficient of x squared is negative, I'm sad. All right. Next thing is the turning point. I'm referring to the actual coordinates of the maximum or minimum point. And lastly, you have the x and y intercepts. What do I mean by the x and y intercepts? For example, if I have a quadratic curve like that, these are the x-intercepts because they cut the x-axis. Okay, and this is the y-intercept because this is where the curve cuts the y-axis. All right, so let's move on. Okay, let's come to example 1. Express x squared minus 6x plus 2 in the form x plus p bracket square plus q. Now, take note that this is actually the completed square form, right? Now, I'm going to assume that you have watched my video on completing the square. So the answer, I'm just going to write it out, x minus 3 square minus 7. Okay? Hence, sketch the graph of y equals to x squared minus 6x plus 2, indicating clearly its intercepts with the axis and its turning point. So, there are three things I need, right? First, shape. Okay? The coefficient of x squared is 1. 1. So it's positive. So it's a smiley curve or minimum curve. Secondly, I need my turning point. Since it's a minimum curve, I want to find my minimum point. How do I find my minimum point? Remember in my lesson on completing a square, I said one of the purposes of completing a square is to get the turning point easily. Okay, so how do I get that? Look at this x minus 3. I'm going to just equate it to 0. Whatever is inside the square, you just equate it 0. X equals to 3. And then my y coordinate will just be simply this, whatever that's outside, including the negative sign. So y is just negative 7. So that's my answer, 3 minus 7. Thirdly, I need my intercepts, right? So I need my x-intercept first. Most likely, there will be two x-intercepts. So at the x-intercept, which is on this x-axis here, the y coordinate must be 0. So y equals to 0. Now I'm going to use my completed square because they said hence, right? So x minus 3 square minus 7 equals to 0. You should know how to solve this by now. Do not forget the plus minus because there should be two answers. And let's get our two answers. 5.65. The other one would be 0.35. Okay, and lastly, I need my y-intercept. Again, at the y-intercept, the x coordinate should be 0. So I put x equals to 0, y equals to, now in this case, I'll probably use this because it's much easier. 0 square minus 60 plus 2. Answer is simply 2. Okay, now that I have all my info, I can actually sketch the graph now. So what do I have here? I have my x-intercepts, which is 0.35 and 5.65. Notice I'm not really measuring it, it's just a sketch, right? Next, I can put in my y-intercept, which is roughly at 2. And then my turning point, my minimum point, make sure it is in the middle of your two x-intercepts. Okay, now I come down, probably just put it around here, and make sure you label with the coordinates. Okay, now how am I going to sketch it? Roughly, come down, curl, and come up. Okay, it will be good practice to actually label your graph. Now, a few points about this. Do not draw your curve like that or like that. Okay, it has to be smooth. It cannot be too pointed. It cannot be too round. It should be like this. All right. So let's move on to the next example. Now, example 2, sketch the graph of y equals to x plus 1 times 3 minus x, showing clearly the intercepts on both axes. Do you notice now that they did not ask me to complete the square? And it is in a factorized form. So one thing to take note, do not go and expand this and then go and complete the square, because I would probably only give this question at most 3 marks. By expanding it and then completing the square, you're probably already doing 3 marks worth of working. And then you still have to sketch the graph. So no, we will not waste time doing that. From this equation, we should be able to sketch this graph. We should be able to get the 3 information that we need as well. So firstly, shape. What is x times negative x? Isn't it negative x squared? So what's the coefficient of x squared? Negative. Negative, I'm set. Okay, simple. Next thing, since it's a maximum curve, I'm finding my maximum point. But do you notice that I do not have my completed square form? So I cannot find my turning point because I do not have the completed square form. So I'm going to leave this out for now. I'm going to do my x-intercepts. At x-intercept again, y equals to 0. So x plus 1, 3 minus x equals to 0. Now, how do we solve this? Please do not go and expand it. Let's use the zero product rule. So it's x plus 1 equals to 0, or 3 minus x equals to 0, and therefore x equals to negative 1, or x equals to 3. And there we go. I have my x-intercepts. Now, I can find my maximum point. How am I going to do that? Remember in the example 1, I told you that to draw the turning point in the middle of the two x-intercepts. That is because the turning point, whether it's minimum or maximum, the x-coordinate is always in the middle of the two x-intercepts. So what am I going to do is, I'm going to find what's the middle of these two x-intercepts, which is, I add these two together, and I divide it by 2. So it's 2 over 2, which is 1. Now, how am I going to find the y-coordinate then? I'm going to sub x equals to 1 into y equals to x plus 1, 3 minus x. So y equals to 1 plus 1, 3 minus 1, 2 times 2 equals to 4. So in fact, my maximum point is 1 and 4. Am I missing something? Yes, I still need my y-intercepts. So only one y-intercept. Again, at a y-intercept, x equals to 0. So y equals to 0 plus 1, 3 minus 0 equals to 1 times 3 equals to 3. Okay, so you can notice that the sequence of getting my tree information is not really the same as if the question was asking me to complete the square. Here, I have to do shape. Then instead of the maximum point, I do the x-intercepts first for me to get the maximum point by taking the middle of these two x-intercepts here. Okay, and then I can sub it into this equation to get my y-coordinate of the maximum point. And lastly, I can get my y-intercept. So now I'm ready to sketch. I'll put in the x-intercepts minus 1, 3. Y-intercept is at 3. And maximum point is in the middle, 1, 4. So already this looks like a maximum curve, right? So I'm going to sketch it in. Okay, it doesn't look very nice, but you get the idea. Okay, so again, label. And there we go. We finished this. All right, so I'm going to move on to example 3. Okay, this is an example where you will only see in additional mathematics because you should know that in elementary mathematics, we do not complete the square with a coefficient here. So in this case, when we want to complete the square, we have to factorize the 3 out first. But again, I'm going to assume that you have watched my video on completing the square. So I'm actually going to write the answer out. It is 3x minus 7 over 6 square minus 25 over 12. Okay, so this is going to be similar to example 1 again. First thing, I need my shape. Don't bother to look at the completed square form. Just look at this equation here. Can you see what's the coefficient of x squared? It is 3. It is positive. Positive, so I smile. Okay. Secondly, I need my minimum curve, right? I need my minimum point. So again, whatever's inside the bracket, x minus 7 over 6, I equate it to 0, x equals to 7 over 6, and y is simply minus 25 over 12. So 7 over 6 minus 25 over 12. Then now I need my x and y intercepts. Let's find my x intercepts first. Let's use our completed square. 3x minus 7 over 6 square minus 25 over 12. You know that x intercepts the y is equal to 0, right? So this is equal to 0. 3x minus 7 over 6 square equals to 25 over 12. X minus 7 over 6 square. If I divide the 3 over, 25 over 36. Let's move up here. Let's solve it. X minus 7 over 6 equals to plus minus square root 25 over 36. Of course, it's 5 over 6, but let's just leave it there. X equals to square root 25 over 36 plus 7 over 6, or x equals to negative square root 25 over 36 plus 7 over 6. So let's get our answers. And first answer I get is 2. Second answer I get is 1/3. Yep. Okay. What else am I missing? y-intercepts, right? Y-intercept, x equals to 0. Let's just use the normal equation. Y equals to 3, 0 square minus 7, 0 plus 2. Obviously, is 2. You don't even have to do this step, okay? If you see here, look at it here, and you know 0 and 0, the answer is just 2. Again, now I have all my info. I should be able to sketch out my curve. So let's take a look. I'll put in my two x-intercepts, 1/3 and 2. Y-intercept 2. Minimum point again in the middle, probably here, 7/6, negative 25/12, and then I can sketch in my curve. You see this? It's not really accurate, right? In fact, you can just remove it and label properly and put it as 1/3. Okay, so again, label my equation. There we go. Basically the same process as example 1. All right, now I want to show you something. Remember I said that the turning point should be in the middle of the two x-intercepts. Now I'm going to prove to you what is 1/3 plus 2 divided by 2. Let's use a calculator. 1/3 plus 2 divided by 2, and I get 7/6. So do you see the x-coordinate of the turning point is in the middle of the two x-intercepts, right? So, okay, let's move on. So there are key points to note. In sketching any quadratic graph, you just need these three things, all right? You need the shape of the curve, whether it's a smiley curve or a set curve. Smiley is a minimum curve and a set curve is a maximum curve. Make sure you find the coordinates of the turning point and then the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. So there are two types of questions that they can give you. One is in the completed square form and the other is in the format of this format, okay, where it's not, you're not going to complete the square. All right. So I hope you learned something. Well, if you managed to learn from this video, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more topics in future. All right. Thank you very much.